Illini basketball continues to trend up, but today we talk about if there's any extra added pressure on Coach Brad Underwood.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. My name is Sonny Verma, your host here at Locked On, where I'm continuing to provide you coverage each and every day. Everything you see, everything you hear is absolutely free. The only thing I ask for in return is if you don't mind, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure we continue to grow this community as we've done such a great job over the past month and a half. Now, first and foremost, happy Halloween for those of you who are watching this on Friday. Today, we're going to talk about Brad Underwood, a figure that is kind of a lightning rod for some reason in the Illini community. No matter, anytime I talk about Brad or anything positive when it comes to Illini basketball, I'll have the usuals in the comment section, saying, hey, it doesn't matter how good the roster looks, as long as Brad Underwood, Mr. Can't Coach, is your head coach, you're not going to go anywhere. So shout out to you, Brad, Ralph, St. Dominic's Rosary. I apologize if off the top of my head I'm forgetting any of you. This show is one that you might like because it's one where I'm a pro Brad Underwood guy. And my everydayers in here know that. I think what he's done with this program, a program when I was younger and I was really embracing myself as an Illini basketball fan, this was one of the top programs in the entire country. And it was devastating. It was very difficult for me as a fan to all of a sudden see the program that I enjoyed watching kind of become forgotten. And that's what happened for almost a decade. A program which had almost seen the top, lost in the national championship game. Just a few years later, all of a sudden, was playing on Wednesday nights of the Big Ten tournament. And it was something that none of us really enjoyed at the time. And now to see where we're at now, with Brad Underwood almost getting us to the point where we were before. Not quite there, of course. He has his faults, which I'll get to a little bit later. But the reason I wanted to talk about Brad to begin with, I should start it off with this. The CBS, just like they did their 100 plus one best players of college basketball, they also released their top 25 and one head coaches in college basketball. And Brad Underwood made an appearance. And I'll give you a second to guess where he was at. There's your second. Brad Underwood showed up at number 19 in the country. So out of all the coaches in this sport, CBS views Brad Underwood as a top 20 coach. Now, if I was voting, I'd probably vote closer to 15. But again, that's just my personal opinion. And I'm also wearing an Illini hat. So maybe, I do bring in a little bias when it comes to all this. Look, we know Brad is an absolute amazing innovator. Okay. Again, granted, he's got his faults, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But even the haters have to recognize things that he is very good at. He's very good at building coaching staffs. Seemingly every time there's a coaching opening, he has his pick of the litter. Even now, you bring in one of the best assistant coaches who used to be one of your assistant coaches, and instead of following one of the greats of all time, he wanted to come back to Champaign to work with Brad Underwood. Brad's a guy who has gone all in on top five or, 5-star, sorry, that's what I meant to say, freshman, and build his team that way. Brad Underwood was one of the first guys to really embrace the transfer portal and try to make his team through the transfer portal. And now, as another strategy, it looks like he's kind of embracing, or at least maybe he sees a market out there for in the international prospects, in particular for Illinois, the Balkans or the Europeans out there. Maybe he sees that the value that you can get from a player out there is better than the value that you'd be spending on a 17-year-old here in America. Now, there's zero pressure on Brad Underwood in the sense of job security. He just signed a extension this past summer. So again, for you haters, this segment I know I keep bringing you guys up. I apologize, but he's not going anywhere. That's not the purpose of what I'm going to talk about right now. What I did want to talk about is just when it comes to big picture wise, Brad Underwood, I would say, is well respected in both, within the industry. Let's just say it that way. And obviously, when you're ranked as the 19th best coach, that you are given some level of respect. But we also know that there comes a story with Brad Underwood, that even though he is a fantastic innovator and one guy who I think is perfect for Illinois in the sense where he's always looking ahead. If something's not working, he's not stubborn. He's not, hey, no, I'll fix it. He'll say, what can I do to fix this? And I always appreciated that about Brad. But this year, instead of going all in on 2 top 20 freshmen like we did a year ago, I mean, Illinois for the last few years, if you take a look at our recruiting rankings, they've been very high. And that's for a reason, because now we're at the point where we have the funds, where we have the assistant coaches to build relationships, and we were able to bring in those type of guys. And I do think that if we wanted to, we still could. But I think Brad has made a calculated decision a little bit now. He can bring in these top freshmen who are top freshmen. Don't get me wrong. Will Riley was a top 10 guy. Kaspersky, I think, settled in as a top 15 guy. But when you invest so heavily on 18-year-olds, your team is invested heavily on 18-year-olds. And we saw the ups and downs of that just last season. I think Brad is past the point where he thinks the opinions of other people matter as much. I think Brad is at the point now where he understands that he's in the last, 5 years of his career, maybe 6 years of his career. And now the national narrative on Brad is going to be, look, he finally got past the Sweet 16 2 seasons ago. So he was able to shed that label. But, last year he did lose to Kentucky in the round of 32. Now, people forget Illinois wasn't favored. Illinois was the underdog in that game. So it's not like they were upset, which a lot of people tried to make you think that they were. But this year, Brad has made an adjustment, right? He's going to go, he kind of sees how the rest of college basketball is trending. And look, we're not Duke, right? Duke can win championships with all the top freshmen because they've got 6 of them. And they've got literally the top guy. Kaspersky was a fantastic freshman. Will Riley was a great freshman, and he had a great year. None of them are Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg is the type of player that's going to take to win a national championship. But what else can win? And I think Brad is understanding that veterans can win. And so Brad this year, when we talk about this Balkan experiment, the memes are going around. I think he's going to be under a spotlight a little bit to see how this experiment works. He's not the first one to do this, to focus on the international market. Look, Gonzaga's done it. But Mark Few also has, he's been a more successful head coach than Brad has. Brad going almost all in on this foreign experiment is going to kind of have an extra level of pressure if it fails. If all of a sudden 1 or 2 guys gets homesick and the team derails, I mean, can you imagine? Again, David looks like he's on a fantastic start to the season. But what if Mihailo Petrovic, he's a little older, and that's what you like about him, right? He's 22 years old. He's played in some of the toughest leagues in the country. He's been in very pressure-packed situations, and he's performed. What if he comes here as a 22-year-old, and he's like, you know what, I liked the idea. I liked the pay I was going to get, but I don't want to go to school. I'm too old for this. I want to go back to Europe, and just something doesn't work out in that sort of sense, which could, again, I don't think it would happen during the season. Don't get me wrong. But when you're mixing in so much blended talent in that locker room, you don't always know how it's going to go. Now, granted, that goes for the domestic talent as well, right? We all remember the Jaden Epps and Matthew Meyer year. Those guys were local, or local meaning domestic. And still, that locker room, a lot of people had to raise their eyes over. But this year, if this Balkan experiment doesn't work, a lot of people are going to point the blame at Brad. And I think that's understandable. And this is as a Brad Underwood supporter. I like what he did. I like the idea that, I agree. To me, it makes more sense to spend 7 figures on a guy like, I'm just going to say, Andrei Stojaković, who's going to be a junior, then reinvest that money into another freshman like a Kasparis or like a Will Riley, who you're going to have to ride the ups and downs with. I like bringing in the guy who still shows up in NBA mock drafts. He's, as I mentioned on yesterday's episode, but at the same time, he has more experience playing college basketball, and you have more film to see how he would adapt. He's a little bit more settled. The floor is certainly higher. Honestly, the ceiling might be higher. Kasparis' ceiling is going to be reached at the NBA level, not in one season in college basketball. So if you're telling me, what do I want? I'd rather take, if I only have one season, maybe 2 seasons max with the guy, yeah, give me the older guy who's played in this situation before and has been in some raucous environments where you're not going to be worried about the ups and downs of dealing with just a freshman and just getting adjusted to college and the speed and the power of the Big Ten Conference. So I'm not going to fault Brad for doing what he did, but I also know that if this doesn't work out, if Illinois finishes in the middle of the pack in the Big Ten Conference, I think it's safe to say this experiment didn't work. I believe they're projected, at least the article I read right before I got on here, Field of 68 has Illinois ranked 5th in the Big Ten Conference, and that's behind Purdue, Michigan, UCLA, and Wisconsin. And 5th is probably, in the range where most people have them. I've seen them as high as 4, 3. Again, my preseason predictions, which I'll probably release on Sunday, I'm going to have them certainly higher than that. But the expectations are there. The excuses are gone. It's not about, hey, there's a lot of excitement this season because we've got some of the top freshmen, but oh wait, by the way, it's tough. These freshmen, it's hard to count on them. Okay, well we've altered our method now. Now we're gonna go with the older experiment. Sometimes you just have to perform. And last year I said that the ceiling of the team was very high, but I also felt like the floor was very low because you had such a brand new team and your leaders were freshmen. I think this year the floor of this team has to be higher. Otherwise, what was the point? Even the ceiling. I do have questions because I don't know who the superstars on this team is going to be, whereas last year I kind of guessed that Kasparis would be. But if one guy does make that leap this year into superstar status, into being one of the best players in college basketball, then Sweet 16 shouldn't just be a goal for Brad Underwood and this fan base, quite honestly. It should absolutely be the expectation. And it's just hard saying that because Brad's only done that once before in his career. So all eyes on Brad Underwood. Do you think he can get past the Sweet 16? I would say even Elite 8. Let me know your thoughts. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is, I'm just going to say Luke Altmaier. He's the one bright spot from last Saturday's debacle, which I'm trying to forget. Luke, threw for 199 yards, but the numbers may not seem all that impressive. But even upon rewatching the game, what I really appreciated about him was just the warrior aspect of it. Some of his numbers don't look as nice because he understood that he had to make plays and try to make plays that ultimately just didn't quite work out. It's that warrior mentality, which is why Luke is going to go down as one of the all-time greats. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Ladies and gentlemen, it's bounce back week in Champaign. And if you've been around this Illinois football program long enough, you know that Bret Bielema teams don't just usually stay down for too long. They stew, they reset, and they punch back. But this one's not just about rebounding from a loss. It's about reasserting what this program is supposed to be under Bret Bielema. Tough, disciplined, and ready to win November football games. Because after back-to-back losses and that deflating trip to Seattle, This Saturday's matchup with Rutgers isn't just another conference game, it's a temperature check for the rest of the season. Inside the Smith Center this week, there's been no sugarcoating it. Bielema wanted the pain of that Washington game to sit. He wanted it to linger. He told his guys point blank, don't wash it away. Feel it. Because this team was supposed to be past moral victories. Illinois didn't spend 3 years climbing out of irrelevance just to shrug off a 42-25 defensive meltdown like it's no big deal. You could feel that message echo through Sunday's film session. We took forever to get the feeling out of this building that losing was acceptable, is what Brett Bielema said. And you know what? He's right. This team has tasted success now. You can't go back to shrugging off losses as a part of the process. That process is over. It's time to win. So here's where things stand. Illinois sits at 5-3, 2-3 in Big Ten play. And yes, the college football playoff dream is gone. But let's be real, that was always a long shot. What is still on the table? Well, a third straight winning season, a trip to a real bowl game, and a chance to prove that Brett Bielema's build is sustainable, not just a one-hit wonder. And the schedule? Oh, well, that opens up beautifully. Illinois has the easiest remaining Big Ten slate according to the metrics, with Rutgers at home, Northwestern, and Wisconsin still ahead. They'll be favored in every game the rest of the way if they simply fix the self-inflicted wounds. But that starts this weekend with Rutgers. And all their issues, they're not going to be a pushover. Let's talk about Greg Schiano's crew for a second. Rutgers is that team that's going to make you pull your hair out as a fan because they do some things at a really high level and then other things at a level of how could a college football team do that? Let's start with the positive. They're top 10 nationally in block punts, first downs, and time of possession. That's a team that can sustain drives, that can hang on to the football, and that can frustrate you with a steady diet of 4 yards, 5 yards, 3rd and 2, and keep moving the chains. Quarterback Ethan Kaliak McManus, again, another quarter for the jar that I can't pronounce names. Yeah, but you know who I'm talking about. The Minnesota transfer is quietly having one of the best years of his career, completing 63% of his passes, over 2,200 yards already, and he's got apparently now even NFL interest brewing. And his weapons, well, those guys are massive too. KJ Duff is 6'6", a contested catch nightmare, and he just dropped a 241-yard game on Purdue. Let me repeat that, 241 yards. The dude basically lived in the end zone and turned every throw into an audition for Sundays. Opposite him, Ian Strong, when healthy, gives Rutgers another big-bodied receiver with NFL tools. Add in a slot guy like Sheffield, and suddenly you realize this Rutgers passing attack is no joke. But here's where it falls apart. The defense has been an absolute circus. We're talking ranked 129th in the country in pass efficiency. Defense bad. We're talking giving up 6.22 yards per carry. Bad, which is literally dead last in the FBS. Not Power 5, not the Big Ten, in the entire country. That's where this game flips for Illinois. Luke Altmaier has to be licking his chops. He's top 20 in the nation in passing yards and completion percentage, and he's about to face a defense that allows 9.3 yards per attempt. This is a game where the Illini receivers, Hank Beatty, Hudson Clement, Colin Dixon, have to feast. Yeah, there were drops last week. Yes, some miscues turned into interceptions, but Rutgers secondary is exactly the kind of opponent you want after that kind of performance. Beatty has been one of the most reliable players this season. Clement has big play potential, and Colin Dixon has quietly one of the Illinois' most efficient targets over the last month. He's caught 19 catches on 25 targets, 320 plus yards in his last 5 games. If there was ever a get right opportunity for the Illinois passing game, it's this one. And speaking of get right, how about that run game? Illinois needs to pound the rock. Rutgers gives up over 6 yards per carry. The combination of Fagan, Khalil Valentine, and Aiden Lawfrey can wear this defense down early. This is a game where you don't need 300 rushing yards. You just need enough to keep Luke Altmaier clean and make play action lethal. Because the truth is, the Illini offense hasn't been the problem lately. It's, of course, been the defense. And this is where we separate the believers from the doubters. Aaron Henry's defense has been getting torched. Let's call it what it is. 39.6 points per game in Big Ten play. Third downs that feel like a reoccurring nightmare. Ohio State converted 8 of 15. Washington converted 8 of 10. And if you believe in bad trends, well, Rutgers is coming in with one of the top third down offenses in the conference. Bielema was as quiet and frustrated after Washington as you'll ever see him. Standing there at the tunnel, motionless, no fist bumps, no words, just staring into the rain, watching his team walk by. That was a man processing the fact that his defense lost its edge. And this week, he made it clear. If I have to get more involved, I will. That's coach speak for nobody's job is safe right now. Guys like Gabe Yakis said it outright. The communication's off. People aren't doing their jobs, and they know it. Against Rutgers, that can't happen because while the Scarlet Knights aren't Ohio State, they've got weapons that'll embarrass you if you let them with those 50-50 yard balls. Ultimately, what does an Illinois win look like? A convincing win for Illinois. You want a dominant first half, building a lead and not letting Rutgers hang around. You want your running game gaining yards, keeping drives alive. Luke avoiding turnovers, making efficient decisions, and the defense forcing Rutgers into those third and longs and limiting those big gains. If that happens, quite honestly, I think the result could be very favorable for the Illini. But what happens if things don't work out? Well, you don't want to start off that first half sluggish, fall behind, let the crowd get nervous, or if the running game fails to establish, gets Luke Altmaier under pressure and the mistakes start creeping in one more time. And then what we're all worried about. The defense gives up multiple chunk plays. Rutgers stays in the game. That could be a 27 or 24, 30 to 28 scare. And all of a sudden we are nervous. And even worse, if Illinois looks like they did versus Washington, falling behind, no rhythm, then the should win game becomes a trap. Illinois has to come in with an urgency, a clarity, and a purpose. So there's where we stand. Illinois should win this game. They need to win this game for the sake of this season's trajectory, for the players, the coaches, and the program's momentum. Win here, and you refocus, you recharge, and you set up for what could be a strong finish to the season. Lose, and the question marks grow. I'll be watching closely. How does Illinois start? How do they respond if things get a little sticky? And I want to see whether the defense steps up in a way we've been hoping for all year long. Illinois versus Rutgers tips off Saturday at 11 a.m. Central. Let's see if Illinois can take advantage of a team that they should beat and take advantage and take care of business at home like we expect them to. Again, post-game coverage will be right here on Locked On Illini, so make sure you are subscribed. Let me know your score predictions in the comment section. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Does Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Illini, for the segment, I'm going to pick Cole Rusk. He had, 4 catches for 56 yards, and it does look like the chemistry that he's building with Luke Altmaier has been growing as the season progresses. And if you've been watching week after week, hopefully that performance wasn't a fluke. And just like Cole Rusk delivered for the Illini, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the season or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's the one making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And welcome back again. We are going to go live immediately after that Rutgers game. It's an 11 a.m. kickoff. As promised, we always go live immediately afterwards. And then, of course, Sunday is probably when I'm going to be releasing my season kickoff spectacular preview. Hopefully, I'll be able to bring on a special guest for that. But then, guys, next Monday is when college basketball season officially starts. We've got a game on Monday night. Of course, I'll be going live immediately after that game because that's what I do. And that's what I appreciate each and every one of you who tend to join me. You guys know I go live after every men's basketball game, men's football game. And, heck, I'll go live after every women's basketball game if that's what you guys want. The only way for me to know that, though, is if you let me know. Reach out to me. Find me on your favorite social media. Send me an email at talkillini@gmail.com, or quite honestly, the best way is simply just join the Talk Illini Discord. Right now, I'm trying to figure out plans for Illinois versus Alabama. It's, I believe, on November 13th or 17th. I forget the date off the top of my head, but it's a Wednesday at the United Center. I'll be having another Locked On gathering right before that game. I don't know where yet. I'm in the process of securing a venue. By the way, if you have a Chicago venue and you want to host us, reach out to me. I can try to make things work. We've had really good showings for our first two. We met up at Wrigley Field for our first ever one, and then we also had a few people meet up before the Ohio State game just about a month ago. So our third official one is going to be a basketball meetup for the first time, and we're going to do that Illinois versus Alabama at the United Center. If you're interested in the details, either join the Discord or just send me an email at talkillini@gmail.com, and I can kind of keep you in the loop as to what the plans are going to be. Or quite honestly, just stay subscribed to this channel. I'll update it and I'll let you guys know here as well. That's going to just about wrap it up. Against all of you kids, stay safe. It's Halloween. Don't be too scary. And until next time, ILL. Love you guys.